It all kicked off one morning when I spotted a cigarette burn on my bathrobe. I was in the kitchen, waiting for the coffee pot to gurgle its last drop. There it was, a small, dark ring right above the left pocket of my robe. A burn mark, no question. I leaned in, ran my thumb along the scorched edge, half expecting it to be just a smudge of grease or maybe some spilled coffee. Nope. It was a burn, like someone had ground a cigarette right into the fabric. Thing is, I don't smoke. Never did. Not even back in my college days in Austin when half the dorm was puffing away like it was a rite of passage. Never appealed to me. This was my robe, my go-to plaid one, soft as all get out. I only wear it at home, usually in the mornings, and not even every day. So, how in the world did this happen? My mind jumped straight to my wife, Bethany. She's been a smoker since the day we met. I can still picture her outside that little second-hand bookstore in Savannah, one hand sparking a lighter, the other clutching a dog-eared copy of Ernest Hemingway. She had this wild, magnetic vibe back then, like the air around her was always thick with coffee, old pages, and cigarette smoke. She's sworn she'd quit more times than I can keep track of, but it never stuck. I got used to the faint tobacco scent in her hair, the ashtray by the living room window, the stray lighters scattered in her purse like spare coins. But here's the kicker, Bethany never wears my stuff. She's got this thing about clothes, everything's gotta be hers, chosen with this almost obsessive care. Her pajamas, robes, cardigans, all of it. She even brings her own slippers to motels because hotel ones creep her out. So how'd my robe end up with a cigarette burn? It didn't add up. I stood there, staring at that mark like it might confess if I glared hard enough. My chest got tight. Not some big, cinematic panic, just a quiet nudge that something was wrong. That little voice in your head that whispers, "Yo, wake up." I wandered into the bedroom. Bethany was brushing her hair, cool as a cucumber, wearing one of her loose beige sweaters, the kind she throws on to look effortless. Her mug of chamomile tea was steaming on the nightstand. "Hey, Beth," I called. She didn't look up, just kept brushing. "Can you come here for a sec?" She strolled in, cradling her tea like it was a precious artifact. "What's up?" she asked, her eyes flicking to me, then to the robe in my hands. I held it up, showing her the burn. "What's this about?" Her eyes narrowed just a fraction, then she shrugged. "Oh, probably my fault," she said, "way too breezy. Maybe when I was leaning on you or something." She sipped her tea, then added, "I might have had a cigarette in my hand." No hesitation, no stumble, just tossed it out like it was nothing. Except it was something. Here's why it bugged me. Bethany's been smoking forever, but she's not sloppy. She handles a cigarette like a painter with a brush, smooth, precise, never dropping ash, even when she's waving her hands during one of her big rants. She flicks ash into the tray without a glance, never misses. We've hugged a million times, tight, soft, sometimes messy, sometimes quick, and in 15 years, she's never once burned my clothes. Not a single time. Now, out of nowhere, there's a hole in my robe, and she's saying, "Oh, when I leaned on you." Problem is, I couldn't recall the last time we'd had a real hug. Not a close one, not the kind where you feel someone's warmth. Our touches had turned distant, like we were roommates playing nice. I nodded, gave a half smile, muttered, "Guess that tracks." But inside, something twisted. It wasn't about the robe. It was about a lie. Then came the second red flag, courtesy of our parrot, Gizmo. That old chatterbox, a gray African we got years ago in Memphis. I almost rehomed him once because his 4 a.m. squawking drove me up the wall. He's loud, ridiculous, and loves parroting anything he hears too often. I used to curse that bird for waking me up like he was running a stock market. But that morning, Gizmo dropped a bomb that made my stomach lurch. I just dragged myself home from a brutal night shift at the hospital in Tucson. Burn patients, a code blue, an 86-year-old who flatlined while gripping my hand. I was running on fumes, guilt, and the stench of hospital disinfectant. Dropped my bag by the door, kicked off my sneakers. The house was dead quiet. Bethany was either still in bed or out somewhere. Our daughter, Kaylee, was at school. And Gizmo? He greeted me with a voice that sure as hell wasn't mine. "Jasper, sweetheart, come here," he squawked, all sing-song, like some sappy love note. I stopped dead in my tracks. "What?" He tilted his head, blinking at me like he'd just read the forecast. Jasper, sweetheart, he said again, softer, then made a smooching noise. A kiss. It hit the silence like a gunshot. I inched toward his cage, my mouth dry as sand. My pulse didn't race, it slowed, heavy, like wading through mud. What did you just say? I muttered. Gizmo puffed up his feathers, did a little hop. Jasper, sweetheart, he chirped again. And just like that, it clicked. My name's not Jasper. I've never called Bethany sweetheart. I don't talk like some love-struck poet. That wasn't me. Gizmo only picks up phrases he hears over and over. It's how he learns. I tried to reason it out. Maybe it was Kaylee. Maybe our daughter had a crush, some boy she was sneaking in. Maybe she was mimicking some cheesy line from a movie or an app. She's 14, growing up too fast, with her mascara and attitude and moods that swing like a pendulum. But that didn't feel right. Bethany and I had rules. No dating till 16, we'd said. She's still too young. So maybe she was sneaking someone in, a kid named Jasper, slipping through the back door when I was pulling night shifts and Bethany was at yoga or the grocery store. My jaw locked so tight it ached. My whole body felt like it was burning up. Kaylee was gonna hear it when she got home, not for having a crush, I could deal with that. The thought that Bethany was cheating hit me like a punch to the gut. It felt wild, unthinkable. She's the mother of my daughter. We'd been through the ringer together, years of fertility treatments, endless hospital bills, scraping by to fix up our old house in Flagstaff, the stress of buying our place. We'd weathered storms most couples wouldn't survive, and I figured it made us tougher, closer. But Gizmo's words were lodged in my brain like a thorn. Jasper, sweetheart, come here. My daughter, Kaylee, got home from school around 4:30. I was slumped at the kitchen table, still in my nurse's scrubs, nursing a mug of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. I hadn't showered, hadn't slept. The house was too damn quiet, and Gizmo's words were echoing in my head like a bad song stuck on repeat. I heard Kaylee's backpack thud by the front door, her sneakers scuffing as she kicked them off. Same old routine, a little groan, a tired sigh, the soft creak of the floorboards as she shuffled into the kitchen. Hey, she said, pausing when she saw me just sitting there. You're home early, huh? Yeah, I replied, my voice low. Come sit for a minute. She froze for a split second, and I caught it, a quick flicker in her eyes, like she sensed something heavy in my tone and wasn't sure how to handle it. Still, she slid into the chair across from me, tugging her hoodie sleeves over her hands, the way she used to when she was a kid and nervous. What's going on? She asked. I looked at her, really looked, and for a moment, everything just stopped. Not tense, not silent, just still, like the world was holding its breath. I took a deep inhale. Who's Jasper? Her brows knitted together. Huh? Gizmo said something this morning, I said, keeping my voice steady. He said, Jasper, sweetheart, come here. Twice. Then I made a smooching sound. I leaned forward. I need to know if you've said anything like that around him. Maybe messing around with friends or something. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out at first. Her eyes darted like her brain was scrambling to process. No, she said after a beat. No way, Dad. I've never said anything like that. Seriously. You sure? I pressed, watching her closely. You don't know Jasper? I don't even know anybody named Jasper, she said, her voice firm but softer now. I swear, I haven't brought anyone over or anything. If that's what you're thinking. I studied her face. She didn't fidget or look away, but there was something in her expression, confusion, maybe a touch of hurt that I'd even ask. Her lips quivered just a bit, her shoulders slumping like she felt trapped for no reason. You think I'm lying? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer right away because, honestly, I wasn't sure what I believed. It's just weird, I said finally. I can't figure out where Gizmo would have picked it up. It wasn't me, she said, her tone sharpening. I don't know what he heard, but I didn't say it. I swear, Dad. Okay, I said, rubbing my temples, bone-tired. All right. She sat there, staring at me, then muttered, I'm not lying. I nodded, but doubt clung to me like damp air. What if she was covering? Kids grow up fast, too fast, and sometimes they learn to hide things before you're ready. I sighed. Go on, head to your room. She lingered for a moment, then got up and walked off, No backpack, no door slam, just quiet footsteps fading down the hall. I sat there another 10 minutes, staring at the table, wishing I could say I fully believed her. But the truth was, I didn't have a solid reason to doubt her, and that made it worse. If it wasn't Kaylee, that only left Bethany. My head was spinning, trying to latch onto some explanation. Maybe Bethany had said something near Gizmo by mistake. Maybe she was on a call, flirting with a friend as a joke. I didn't want to believe she'd cheat. She was my partner, my history. We'd built this life from the ground up, slow, messy, real. But parrots don't invent words. They echo what they hear, over and over. That evening, Bethany came home acting like everything was fine. Purse slung over her shoulder, keys clinking, phone already in her hand. She kicked off her shoes at the door, gave a half-hearted hey without looking my way, and headed straight for the kitchen. I followed. She opened the fridge, grabbed sparkling water, and leaned against the counter, looking worn out. Probably was. Living a double life sounds exhausting. Beth, I said, my voice flat. She glanced over, one eyebrow raised. Yeah? Who's Jasper? Her hand froze mid-twist on the bottle cap. She turned to face me, eyes narrowing slightly, not shocked, just sizing me up. What? Gizmo said something this morning, I said. Twice. Jasper, sweetheart, come here. Then a kissing sound. She stared at me like I just claimed the sun was made of ice. You're really taking life advice from a bird, she said, her tone sharp but steady. I wasn't buying it. Gizmo only mimics what he hears over and over, and in our house in Tucson, it's just the three of us, me, Bethany, and Kaylee. Maybe it's Kaylee, Bethany shot back, too fast, her voice edged with irritation. I already asked her, I said. She says she didn't do it. Bethany slammed her sparkling water bottle down harder than she needed to. This is absurd, she snapped. You're seriously accusing me of cheating because of something the parrot said? Then she laughed, a real, full laugh, not shaky or forced, like I'd just dropped the punchline to a bad joke. It hit me like a splash of ice water. Oh, come on, Wes, she said, shaking her head. Are you for real? It's probably from the TV. You know I'm hooked on those sappy romance shows. Gizmo must have caught it from one of those. Don't turn this into a thing, please. She stepped closer, resting her hand on my shoulder. Her touch was warm, soft, reassuring, but it didn't settle the knot in my chest. That unease was there, curled up deep inside, quiet but heavy. I nodded, let her think I was letting it go, that she'd smooth it over. But my mind was humming like a frayed wire, like a smoldering coal hidden in ash. Nothing obvious yet, but still burning. My gut, the same instinct that's carried me through the worst shifts in the ER, was screaming one thing, something's off. I couldn't pin it down, couldn't prove it, but that night was the last one I spent in our house after the final nail in the coffin of her betrayal. The next day, I got home earlier than usual. My head wasn't throbbing from exhaustion, it was the thoughts, relentless, carving into me like dull knives. I tossed my keys on the counter, shrugged off my coat, and then I heard it. Wes is clueless. Kiss me deeper. The words rang through the empty house. Gizmo. I stepped into the living room, and there he was, perched on his swing, bobbing his head like he was proud of his little performance. Kiss me deeper, he said again, softer this time, almost tender, like a secret whispered in the dark, like a lover who didn't bother to close the door. My stomach churned. I felt sick, physically sick. She'd laughed right in my face, lied to my eyes, touched my shoulder with that same hand that might have been on someone else just hours before. And that someone had a name, Jasper. I sank onto the couch, my eyes burning, my throat tight. The worst part was the picture in my head, clear as day, slamming into me like it had been waiting there all along. Bethany in our bedroom, her laughter, the door cracked open, a street light flickering outside. And that voice now spilling out of my damn parrot's beak. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a slap in the face. In our home, in our bed, while I was out saving strangers, kids, old men, mothers, someone else was walking into my house, into her arms. I barely made it to the bathroom. I gripped the sink, leaning over it, staring into the basin, trying to keep it together. This wasn't some bad lunch turning my stomach. It was her. It was the image in my mind, the weight of the truth crushing me. This wasn't just a hunch anymore, it was real. She's cheating. I didn't care why. I needed to know who. And when I found out, everything would change. I wasn't going to let this slide, wasn't going to forgive, wasn't going to forget. She'd regret it. But first, I had to figure out who the hell Jasper was. That same day, I made a move. I was done sitting around, second-guessing, doubting the woman I'd spent half my life with. So I drove to her office in Scottsdale. No heads up, just showed up in the lobby with a bag of her favorite blueberry scones and a casual, "Hey, babe." I played it smooth, like it was a sweet, spur-of-the-moment lunch date, a little nod to show I still cared, still remembered the small things. She didn't come out right away. 5 minutes dragged by, then 10. Finally, she appeared, phone in hand, a smile plastered on her face. But I knew that smile, it wasn't real. It was a mask. "Wes, what a surprise," she said. "What are you doing here?" "Just wanted to see you," I said, holding up the scones. "Thought we could grab lunch." "Missed you." She nodded, but her jaw tightened just a bit, and there it was, a half-second pause before she answered. I caught it. Then, from behind a partition, a voice called out, "Beth, Jasper was asking for you." My blood surged, pounding in my temples. There it was. That's why she stiffened when she saw me. Jasper. He worked here. I locked eyes with her. She let out a small breath and called back, all casual, "Jasper, what's up?" I turned, and there he was, gray hair, short, wearing a faded blue cardigan, coughing like he might keel over. Had to be pushing 70. He shuffled toward us, clutching a stack of folders and a metal thermos, raised a hand, and gave a polite smile. "Sorry, Beth," he said. "Just need to confirm the vendor invoices." I stood there, rooted to the spot. This wasn't him. Not that Jasper. Not the one whose voice had haunted my house. Not the one whispering to my wife in our bedroom. I wanted to yell, to curse. Instead, I forced a smile. "Jasper, huh?" I said. "Yeah, the accountant," Bethany said, shrugging. "Nice old guy. Kind of a drag, though. Should have retired ages ago, but nobody has the heart to tell him." I nodded, stepped back, acting like it all added up. But my head was still buzzing. This wasn't the guy. His voice wasn't even close. I took a slow breath, flashed a grin. Shoot, just remembered I gotta swing by the mechanic. Truck's been making a weird noise. Meant to check it yesterday but spaced. "Oh, sure, go for it," she said, too quick, too smooth. That sure landed wrong, no hint of disappointment, no you drove all this way for nothing. Just relief, barely veiled. I nodded, leaned in, kissed her cheek like it was just another day. Then I walked out, got in my truck, hands on the wheel, didn't start it. Just sat there, staring at nothing. I knew it now. I couldn't stay in that house with her anymore. The thought made my skin crawl. This wasn't just a hunch anymore, it was the cold, hard truth. I just hadn't nailed it down with evidence yet. I kept my mouth shut because I knew how this game works. No proof, and you're not the betrayed one, you're the paranoid nutcase. Bethany would spin it, make me out to be the overreacting idiot imagining an affair. The world might buy her story, and I'd be left carrying the guilt, even if I was dead right. After leaving her office in Scottsdale, I drove back to our house while she was still at work. I packed a small bag, just the basics. Then I went through the place, room by room, opening every drawer like I was hunting for a hidden treasure map. No hotel receipts, no love letters, no secret burner phone. Bethany was too sharp to leave a trail like that. But the house? It was spotless. Too spotless. Not a stray receipt, no dirty mug on the counter, nothing out of place. Even though I knew something was off, she'd covered her tracks like a pro. All right, fine. I was done guessing. I drove to an electronics store 20 minutes away, not our usual spot, nowhere near where Bethany or her friends might pop up. I bought 3 small security cameras, the kind you'd miss unless you were looking for them. One for the living room, one for the hallway by the bedrooms, one for our bedroom. I hid them so well I had to double-check to spot them myself. Ran a quick test to make sure they were working, then left the house. That night, I texted Bethany, one of the guys that works down with the stomach bug. "I'm picking up extra night shifts this week." Hours later, she replied with a single word, "Okay." No questions, no concern, no "you alright?" Just that one word, like a gate clicking shut. 2 days dragged by. 2 long nights at the hospital in Tucson, 2 lukewarm showers, 2 awful cups of cafeteria coffee, and not a single call or text from Bethany checking in. No, how's it going? No, what did you eat? No, I miss you. Nothing. Even Kaylee didn't text, which cut deeper than I expected. It felt like I'd been wiped off the family calendar, like my absence wasn't just ignored, it was counted on. That hurt worse than all the suspicions combined. Then it hit me. I found out who Jasper was. Not from the cameras, not from some hushed phone call I wasn't meant to hear. It happened at Kaylee's softball game at her school in Mesa. It was a Saturday, and I hadn't missed a game all season. No matter what mess was unraveling with Bethany, I wasn't about to let Kaylee down. She didn't sign up for this drama, she still needed a dad who showed up, hollered from the bleachers, and cheered too loud when she snagged a line drive. I wasn't looking for Jasper that day, but he found me. I pulled into the parking lot 10 minutes early. Bethany was already there, of course, staking out the best seat, chatting with the other moms like she was born for it. She had this knack for looking polished without trying, even in a sweatshirt and sunglasses. I approached from behind the stands and saw her by the dugout, talking to some guy. She turned, flashed that easy smile that used to be mine, and said, "Wes, this is Jasper. He's one of the coaches." He stuck out his hand. "Good to meet you, man. Heard a lot about you." I stared at his hand for a split second, my blood boiling. This was him. My whole body went rigid. I forced a smile because Kaylee was right there, because the kids were watching, because Bethany's eyes were on me. Jasper. No doubt about it. My wife's lover, standing there, offering a handshake like we were just 2 dads meeting at a game. He had no idea I knew. I wanted to crush every bone in his hand right there. In my head, I saw it, my fist slamming into his jaw, sharp, loud. He'd stumble, maybe trip over a bench, hit the dirt. He'd try to get up, and I'd land another hit, this time to his stomach. His hands would flail, confused, searching for answers. I wanted that cocky grin wiped off his face, wanted his eyes to fill with fear, wanted that moment to haunt him longer than any moment he'd stolen with my wife. But I didn't. For Kaylee's sake, I shook his hand. "Wes," I said, my voice steady. His grip was too tight, like he was trying to prove something. His smile was a little too big, his eyes darting away too quick. Bethany watched us both, silent, her expression careful. The game started. I sat next to her, made small talk about the sunny weather, sipped from a tepid water bottle, and watched Kaylee swing and sprint like her world was still intact. I clapped, shouted her name, did all the dad things, but inside, I was shaking with fury. After the game, the crowd cleared out. Bethany lingered, chatting with a few parents. Kaylee was still on the field, helping pick up gear. Jasper was alone by his car, puffing on a cigarette like he owned the damn world. I watched from a distance, noticed how he held it, careless, loose, ash dropping onto his jacket sleeve without a second thought. That's when it clicked. The robe. The burn. It wasn't Bethany. It was him, wearing my clothes in my house, with my wife, leaving evidence like he belonged there. I stood there, hands shoved in my pockets, staring at the man who'd slithered into my life like a thief. But I didn't move. A punch wasn't enough anymore. I wanted to ruin him, and I'd do it the right way. I didn't wait around. The cameras might have caught him in our bed, on the kitchen counter, anywhere, it didn't matter. I didn't need video proof. I didn't need to snoop. I'd seen enough. I told Bethany I had to head back to work. She just shrugged and said, "All right, just drop me and Kaylee off at home." I nodded, kept it quiet. The drive was silent. When we got to the house, I turned to Kaylee, resting a hand on her shoulder. "Go to your room, all right?" She looked at me for a moment, said nothing, just nodded. She could sense it. Something was brewing, and it wasn't going away. Bethany stood in the hallway of our Tempe house, phone in her hand, eyes distant, like she was already somewhere else. "Who are you sleeping with?" I asked, my voice low but firm. Her head snapped up, not startled, just blank. "What?" "Don't play dumb, Beth. I know about Jasper." A tiny flinch in her eyes, barely there, followed by that sharp, fleeting smirk I knew too well. She paused, then shrugged. "You're serious? Over some coach?" "Not just a coach," I said, stepping closer. "A guy you're sneaking around with behind my back." "You're out of your mind," she fired back, her tone biting. This is insane. She moved toward me, like she was about to talk me down. Convince me otherwise, I said. Insane? I repeated, my voice steady. You think I'm gonna let this slide after everything we've been through? How could you, Beth? Her face tightened, eyes narrowing. Then she went for the jugular. Don't act like you're some perfect husband, Wes. You're distant, checked out. You brought this on yourself. You're never here. You don't see me, don't even try. I'm still alive, Wes. I need more than your tired sighs after a shift. Don't do that, I said, keeping my cool. Don't flip this on me. I've always wanted you, Beth. No one else. Remember that hike in Sedona, when I pulled out that ring with the sunset behind us? I meant every word. I thought we were forever. I held on to us, right up to the end. I'd still be holding on if you hadn't betrayed me. She went quiet, her face unreadable. It's over, Beth, I said. I'm filing for divorce. I don't want to see you again. Her lips curled into a cold, bitter smile, that same cutting smirk she used when she wanted to twist the knife. Go for it, she said. But the house is mine, and Kaylee's staying with me. The house? I didn't care about the house. But Kaylee? That was different. I couldn't stomach the thought of my daughter growing up under this roof with a woman who could lie so smoothly, who'd trade our family for a cheap thrill. She didn't just stab me in the back, she'd torn apart everything we'd built. I stepped closer, locked eyes with her. You're not taking Kaylee, I said. She's staying with me. She smiled again, like we'd just shown our hands in a poker game. We'll see, she said, her voice calm but loaded. Then Kaylee appeared in the doorway, pale, eyes wide. What's happening? She glanced from me to Bethany, then back to me. Her voice hit me harder than anything Bethany had said, slicing right through my chest. For the first time in this mess, I felt ashamed, not for what I'd said, but because Kaylee had to hear it, had to see us like this, because we'd let her down. I stepped toward her, keeping my voice soft, even though something inside me was already burning. Kaylee, just listen, I started. She pulled back, shaking her head. You deserve this, she said, her words sharp, like she'd been holding them in. Mom didn't do anything wrong. I froze. What? I barely got the word out, my lungs struggling to pull in air. I don't respect you, she said, her voice trembling but steady. You're a liar, a fake. You act like the good guy, but you're not. You cheated on Mom first. Her voice broke, tears streaming as she screamed. She told me everything, and now you're blaming her. I stood there, speechless, my mind blank. Nothing worked. That's not true, Kaylee, I managed, my voice sounding thin, like it belonged to someone else. She stared into my eyes, and there wasn't a shred of trust left in hers. I can't even look at you, she yelled, then bolted upstairs. Her door slammed, and the silence that followed was deafening. I stood there, rooted in the rubble of her words. I'd never cheated on Bethany. Not once, not in a glance, not in a thought. All these years, I'd poured everything into them, her, Kaylee. I worked double shifts, skipped vacations, ran myself ragged so they'd have what they needed. And now my own daughter was looking at me like I was the bad guy. How the hell did this happen? Then I looked up, and there was Bethany, smiling, not happy, but triumphant, like she'd just landed a knockout punch. It hit me then, she'd planned this. She'd poisoned Kaylee's trust before I even had a chance to speak. You told her that? My voice cracked. You lied to our daughter to cover your affair? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. That faint smile, just the corners of her lips turned up, said it all, like a fox after snatching a hen. I stepped toward her, wanting to say something, anything, but I stopped. I wasn't going to stoop to her level. I didn't say another word, not to her, not to Kaylee. I went upstairs, opened my closet, grabbed a duffel bag, and started packing. A couple of shirts, my toothbrush, the pocket knife my grandpa gave me, a few photos of Kaylee from when things were still good. That was it. Bethany didn't follow. I heard her in the kitchen, moving around like the world hadn't just collapsed, like she hadn't turned our daughter against me and smirked about it. 10 minutes later, I came downstairs, bag over my shoulder, keys in hand. She was by the sink, scrolling her phone, cool as ice. Are you leaving? She asked, like I was a delivery guy wrapping up a drop-off. Yeah, I said, where to? Somewhere that doesn't reek of your lies. She let out a short breath, maybe a laugh. You're pathetic, she said. Running off like a kicked dog. I turned to her. I'm not running, I said. I'm regrouping. Bethany finally turned to face me, her eyes cold and sharp. I'm fighting for Kaylee, I told her, my voice steady. And I'm gonna win. Not because I'm some saint, not because I've got a secret weapon, but because when the lies stop spinning, the truth will be the only thing standing tall. I leaned in, my voice dropping. And you'll be standing alone. She didn't say a word. I walked out the door, didn't slam it, didn't glance back, just left. I still had moves to make, and she had no clue how sharp they were. I headed back to the hospital in Tucson. I needed space to cool off before I played my next card. The next morning, I was in the break room, sipping bitter coffee, trying to clear the fog in my head, when someone knocked. Kaylee stood there, backpack slung over her shoulder, eyes puffy and red. I shot to my feet. She didn't speak, just fell into my arms, sobbing. My grip tightened around her. It's all right, I said softly. Whatever's going on, I'm here. We sat down. It took a few minutes for her to steady her breathing enough to talk. I heard Mom on the phone this morning, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I waited. She was talking to him. Jasper. She didn't know I was up. Kaylee swiped her sleeve across her tear-streaked face. She said that you found out, but no one would believe you because she's already told everyone you cheated first. My stomach dropped. She said even I'd back her up, Kaylee whispered, her voice breaking. Because I'm just a dumb kid who believes whatever she says. That was it. The dam burst. She cried harder than I'd ever seen, her whole body shaking with raw, gut-wrenching sobs, the kind that tears something loose inside. I'm so sorry, Dad, she kept saying. I didn't know. Hey, I said, pulling her close again. You didn't do anything wrong. You hear me? Nothing. She lied to you. I thought it was true, she said, her voice muffled against my shoulder. I said awful things to you. Kaylee, look at me. She did, her eyes red and searching. This isn't your fault. None of it. She wiped her face with her sleeve. Dad, please don't tell anyone Mom's having an affair with the coach. Why not? I asked, my heart sinking, because if it gets out at school, they'll make fun of me. They'll say I'm just like her, that my mom messes around with other people's husbands, that I'll grow up to do the same. I didn't know what to say at first. I just held her tighter. She was still a kid, even if she tried to act tougher. Her world had just shattered, not because of some big revelation, but because her mom turned out to be someone she didn't know anymore. Are you and Mom getting divorced? She asked, her voice barely audible. Yeah, I said, plain and simple. No need for more. Her hands shook. I don't want to live with her, she whispered. Not after this. I want to stay with you. I nodded, pulling her closer. I want that too, I said. But it's not just up to us. We'll have to fight for it. She didn't say anything, just sat there with me, quiet. Before she left, I asked for one thing. There's a small black box in my bedroom closet. Looks like a Wi-Fi router, no antennas. Grab it for me and bring it here. It's the camera footage. Don't tell anyone. She didn't ask why, just nodded, pulled her hoodie up, and left. Late that night, I drove by the house. Didn't get out of the truck, just checked the spot. Kaylee had left it exactly where I'd asked, tucked inside the rusty toolbox under the back porch steps. Everything was there, just as I needed. I checked into a motel off the interstate in Chandler, one of those single-story joints with a flickering neon sign. The room smelled like cheap cleaner and musty air conditioning. Peeling sink, cracked lamp, a mattress that sagged like quicksand. But I could breathe here, away from her. I needed proof that Bethany and Jasper weren't just sneaking around once or twice. I needed to show it was a pattern, something ongoing. I had to figure out how they planned it, how she signaled when I'd be at work, when the house was clear. And I knew I couldn't do it alone. So I called someone you don't call unless you're dead serious, Hank Grayson, a former cop turned private investigator. Guys like him either burn out on department politics or just want to play by their own rules. Hank was the second kind. Short, stocky, with eyes that had seen too much in a 5 o'clock shadow that didn't care about the time of day. We met at his office, a cramped second-floor space in a rundown strip mall in Mesa, wedged between a laundromat and a vape shop. The door had a faded sign, Grayson Investigations. Inside, there was a wobbly chair, a desk scarred with coffee stains, and an ashtray with a couple of cigarette butts still smoldering. "Lay it out," he said, so I did. Not the hurt, not the betrayal, just the facts. Bethany, Jasper, my night shifts, the robe, the parrot, the cameras. "Jasper's her softball coach," I said. "They're sneaking around. I just need it on paper, something solid, something that'll hold up in court. How they're talking, phone, texts, apps, whatever. When they meet, where?" Hank listened, no nods, no comments, just soaked it all in like he was piecing together a puzzle. When I finished, he leaned back. "You still love her?" he asked. I stared out the window, watching a pickup truck rumble past. "No," I said. "I just want her to feel what I felt." He gave a single nod. "All right." He pulled a worn notebook from his jacket. "You said she's careful, covers her tracks." "Too careful," I said. "But she's not flawless." "Nobody is," he said. "Give me a few days." I didn't know then that things were already starting to unravel for Kaylee at school. From first period, something was off. Nobody teased her outright, nobody said anything to her face. But the air was heavy, the kind of quiet that makes your shoulders tense and your neck prickle. Kaylee felt the stares, the quick glances, the hushed whispers as kids passed around something on their phones. She caught the shifts in the air, the way conversations stopped when she turned around. During a break by the lockers at her school in Mesa, she heard it, a stifled laugh, the kind people don't bother hiding until a teacher's nearby. "She's probably just like her mom," someone muttered. "Yeah, probably into coaches, too," another voice chimed in. Kaylee froze, her face going blank but sharp, like a blade. She turned slowly. 3 boys stood by the lockers, one holding a phone, one popping gum, the third staring at the floor. "What did you just say?" she asked, her voice clear, unwavering. "Nothing," one mumbled. "Bet it's cool having a mom everyone's talking about, huh?" the other said with a smirk. "She's got good taste, unlike your dad." "Shut it," Kaylee snapped. "What?" The kid with the phone grinned wider. "Your mom was all over that coach. Have you seen the video?" He unlocked his screen and held it out. A shaky clip played, Bethany on the bleachers at the school field, sitting too close to Jasper, him leaning in, whispering, her hand grazing his, her head tilting just a little too familiar. Kaylee swatted the phone out of his hand. "I said shut it," she repeated, her voice low and fierce. "Oh, what?" he sneered. "Mad 'cause you're gonna turn out just like her?" "Shut up," she screamed, lunging forward. It happened fast. She smacked the phone across the floor, grabbed the kid by his shirt, and shoved him hard. He stumbled, hit the ground with a thud. The other 2 jumped in, one grabbing her arm, the other her shoulder. She fought like a cornered animal, swinging at arms, chests, anything she could reach. The punches weren't strong, but the fury behind them stopped them cold. It wasn't just anger in her eyes, it was pain, humiliation, betrayal. She wasn't fighting to win, she was fighting to make them stop talking. "Don't you dare talk about my parents," she yelled, tears streaming down her face, but she kept swinging. "You hear me?" The hallway went dead quiet, everyone staring, wide-eyed. Her voice cut through the air, raw and ragged. "Enough." The gym teacher's voice cracked like a gunshot. He pulled one kid's hand off her, grabbed her elbow, and steered her to the wall. "Everyone, back to class. Now." The boys scattered, one scooping up the phone, glancing at it, staying silent. The teacher looked at Kaylee. Her shoulders shook, her shirt hung off one side, her cheeks were wet, but she didn't speak. "Nurse's office, then the assistant principal," he said. "Go." She nodded, wordless, and walked down the hall, slow, straight, never looking back. Her shoulders were squared, her spine rigid, her hands gripping her backpack straps so tight her knuckles turned white. She moved through the whispers like they didn't exist, her body buzzing, not with shame, but with rage, with betrayal, radiating off her like heat. The worst had already happened. This wasn't just gossip. It wasn't just whispers. It was a video, and it was everywhere. Her mom was a punchline now, and her last name was a target point. 4 days later, Hank called. His voice was flat, no preamble. "Got something. Let's meet." We sat in his same rundown office in Mesa, the air thick with the smell of stale coffee and car exhaust from the street below. Hank slouched at his desk in a worn jacket, clutching a plastic cup of cold coffee like it was keeping him grounded. "What did you find?" I asked, settling into the creaky chair. "She's got 2 phones," he said, straight to the point. "What?" I blinked, the words not sinking in at first. "Her main one's clean," he went on. "Messages, photos, apps, all spotless, like someone with nothing to hide." He paused, then added, "But there's another. Small, no case, no personal stuff. She keeps it stashed in her makeup bag. Looks like a spare, but it's active. Real active." I sat there, silent, processing. "She uses it for one thing," he said. "Jasper. Texts only, no calls, no logs, no apps linked. Hard to trace." He took a fake sip from his empty cup, more reflex than anything. "I got access. Lifted it from her table at a coffee shop, slipped a tracking program on it, put it back before she noticed. It mirrors everything, texts in, texts out, runs in the background. They won't see it, but I do. And now you will." He turned his tablet toward me, a plain interface with a list of messages. I read the first one. "Beth, see you soon." I tapped and scrolled. "He's so dull, doesn't even notice. Last night was unreal. I can still feel you. When Kaylee's at school, swing by. We'll have a few hours. I always pictured it was you when he touched me." Line after line. I didn't speak, didn't ask questions, just kept scrolling, my thumb steady. It didn't hurt, it made me sick, furious. Their plans, their secrets, words that used to be ours now twisted, recycled. Her voice notes, giggling, his stupid winking emojis, their little signals, photos from the car, the gym, our bed, my bed. And then it went beyond betrayal to straight-up contempt. She talked about me like I was a chore, something broken cluttering up her life. He's not even a man anymore. I'm just existing next to him, not living with him. I couldn't keep pretending. Hank stayed quiet, letting the weight of it all settle. When I finally stopped scrolling through the messages, he spoke, his voice even. "It's all backed up. Texts, photos, locations. If this goes to court, it's ironclad." I gave a single nod. "That's all for now," he said, "but I'm still digging." I slid the tablet back to him. One thought kept me grounded. I was one day closer to settling the score. It was a standard evening shift at the hospital in Tucson. Nothing out of the ordinary. A few bandage changes, an older guy with a panic attack, a couple of drunk kids who'd banged themselves up trying tricks on skateboards. "Probably posting it on Instagram already," one nurse muttered as we sent them off. "Kid tried a kickflip and ate pavement," another said, rolling her eyes. I was halfway through a lukewarm coffee, glancing at a muted rerun on the break room TV, when the crash victims rolled in. 3 of them, from a car accident. The driver had nodded off, or maybe got distracted, and smashed into a parked car on a quiet street in Tempe. Seen it 100 times. One of the EMTs pulled me aside. "The folks in the parked car? They were, busy when the other car hit." "Busy how?" I asked that. He raised an eyebrow. "You'll see." The injuries were minor, scrapes, bruises, one sprained wrist. Nothing dramatic. But the details? Those were juicier than the wounds. In the parked car were a man and a woman, barely dressed. She still had one sandal on, he was clutching a jacket over his lap, grimacing. "Didn't even see the car coming," the guy mumbled as they wheeled him in. "We were just parked, talking. Didn't take a genius to know what was really going on when the crash happened." And when I got close to the stretcher and saw his face, my blood ran cold. It was Jasper. The same Jasper. His eyes met mine for a split second, a flicker of recognition, then he looked away. He knew I knew. The woman with him wasn't Bethany. It was Patrice, the mom of one of Kaylee's classmates. I recognized her right away, big laugh, always in yoga pants, forever holding a smoothie in her phone. Volunteer at school fundraisers. Then it clicked. Jasper wasn't just sneaking around with Bethany, he was working his way through half the moms at Kaylee's school, running a full-on affair circuit. Another nurse nudged me. "You alright? You look like you just saw a zombie." "Close enough," I muttered. I stood just inside the exam room, gripping the patient chart, picturing the moment Bethany would find out. The second it would hit her that she wasn't special, that their little romance was just another notch on his belt. She was ordinary to him, nothing unique, just one of many. Jasper shifted on the stretcher, wincing. "Can I get something for the pain?" he asked. "I'll check with the doc," the nurse said, her tone flat and professional. But the real kicker wasn't even Jasper. The driver who'd plowed into their car. It was Patrice's husband, Vernon. Met him once at a school open house, buttoned-up guy, khakis ironed too sharp, handshake like he was closing a deal. Turns out, he'd put the pieces together about his wife. Instead of gathering proof or calling a lawyer, he'd gone for it. One of the paramedics leaned in at the nurse's station, voice low. Guy spotted them from across the lot. Sat there, watched, then floored it. "Damn," a nurse whispered. "That's not just anger. That's a vendetta. He's screwed now, reckless endangerment, maybe attempted assault if the DA pushes it." I walked over to start Vernon's 4. He looked up at me, his face pale. "You know," he asked, voice barely there. "I do now," I said that. He stared at the floor, then back at me. I tracked her phone for weeks. Knew something was wrong. She'd come home late, reeking of his cheap aftershave, not even trying to hide it. His voice shook. I didn't say a word. Just parked across the street, watched him grinning in that car like it was some damn movie. I snapped. I let out a slow breath. "Yeah. Have you ever done something you knew you'd regret, even while you were doing it?" he asked, his eyes locked on mine. "I'm about to," I said. That he nodded, no surprise in his face, just that heavy look of a man who'd crossed a line and didn't care anymore. "I didn't mean to hit them that hard," he said, swallowing hard. "Just wanted them to feel it, you know? Not die. Just feel something." He didn't need to spell it out. I got it. Now he's staring down charges, court dates, and a pile of medical bills. Me? I'm playing it differently. My payback will be smoother, sharper, cleaner, and a whole lot more satisfying. But one move at a time. After that night, I called Hank. "Keep digging," I told him. "I want names. Every mom Jasper's messing with, who knows, who suspects, everything." A few days later, he came back with a list, 8 names, all married moms tied to Kaylee's school in Mesa. I stared at that list, knowing it was my ace in the hole, and I was gonna play it exactly right. When everything was lined up, I filed for divorce. No way was I letting a process server or lawyer handle it. I wanted to do it myself, to see Bethany's face when the papers hit her desk. I walked into her office, like I belonged there. I kinda did, in a way. The receptionist gave me a nod and waved me through without a word. It was a regular Tuesday morning, someone pouring coffee in the break room, a clerk tapping away at a keyboard, the hum of copiers, and the soft click of shoes on the floor. Bethany was at her desk, head down. "Hey," I said, my voice steady. "Got something for you." I set the envelope in front of her. She glanced at it, then flashed a slow, cocky grin. "So," she said, her voice low, "you're starting a fight?" "Bring it on," I replied, "but you're the one going down." She scoffed, her smirk widening. "Oh, really? You actually think you've got this?" I pulled up a chair across from her. "No hurry," I said, pulling another envelope from my bag. "This is what's heading to court. Includes video from inside our house." Her grin faltered. "Footage of you letting Jasper into our place at night while Kaylee's sleeping down the hall. Not a good look for a mom." She blinked, her face tightening. I'm also submitting texts and statements proving you tricked Kaylee into thinking I cheated," I cut in. "Emotional manipulation of a minor. That's a bad move in custody cases." She went quiet, just for a moment. Coworkers shuffled past, clutching coffee mugs, phones buzzing. Nobody spoke, but their ears were perked. "You think you've won?" she hissed, leaning forward. "I think," I said, easing closer, "this is gonna get real interesting. You think a judge is just gonna hand Kaylee over to you? After today, I'd bet you lose her in the house. I'm going for full custody." She let out a sharp, jittery laugh. "Full custody? You? Please." "Oh, and one more thing," I added, my voice calm but cold. "I'm filing a civil suit against Jasper for alienation of affection. He'll be broke by the time it's done." Her eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" "He's not getting just one lawsuit," I said. "He's getting 8. One from each husband." She froze, her breath catching. Your precious Jasper's been sleeping with 8 women at once, most of them moms you know from school. She stared, her face paling. Then it hit her, and she snapped, you're lying. Nope, I said. And one of them's pregnant. Might be his. You're lying, she shouted, her voice cracking. See you in court, I said, standing. That's when she lost it. Bethany lunged at me, fists swinging, no control left. Her first punch caught my arm, the next grazed my chest. Then she was clawing at my jacket, yanking like she could rip away the truth. Her face was twisted with fury. Go to hell, she screamed, her voice breaking as coworkers rushed in to pull her off. Someone grabbed her arm, but she thrashed, kicking, shoving, swatting at anyone who got close. I hate you, she shrieked. Her boss stepped in, reaching for her shoulder. She spun and sank her teeth into his hand. His yelp echoed down the hall, blood welling up fast. Security showed up in seconds, someone had hit the panic button. 2 guards pinned her arms, forcing her to the floor. She kept fighting, cursing, gasping, her hair a mess, her eyes wild. The office went dead silent. A guy stood frozen, coffee cup halfway to his mouth, staring. Another had earbuds in, jaw dropped. The coworker who'd been joking with her at the water cooler yesterday stood like a statue, her face blank, stunned. I smoothed my shirt, glanced at the receptionist. She was at her desk, hands hovering over her keyboard, pale as a ghost. Have a good one, I said, cool as ice, and walked out. I had somewhere to be. Kaylee was waiting at school. We had plans to make, talks to have, about the future, about a new place to call home, one free of lies and people who dress up betrayal as a cry for passion.